Presidente João Lourenço, da República de Angola e Chairperson da União Africana, distinguished heads of state and government, Chairperson Mahmoud Yusuf of the Commission of the African Union, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. In a world filled with division and mistrust, the African Union is a flagship for multilateralism. My gratitude runs deep. I will carry with me always the unwavering, decisive support of the African group in the UN on issue after issue, initiative after initiative, in the shared struggle for justice and equality. Your solidarity has not only strengthened our efforts, it has moved me deeply, and I will never forget it. From day one of my mandate, we forged the UN partnership with the African Union rooted in respect, constant dialogue, and unwavering solidarity. Over the last decade, our cooperation has reached new heights. Joint frameworks on peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights. Collaboration during COVID-19, important new partnerships, and the landmark adoption of Security Council Resolution 2719, creating a pathway for predictable funding for AU-led peace support operations. We have been honored to support AU priorities, from silencing the guns to the African Humanitarian Agency to the promotion of inclusive political transitions. And we have stood with Africa as you lead global demands for justice, confronting the legacy of slavery and colonialism, including your call for reparatory justice frameworks, championing the Sustainable Development Goals, driving climate ambition, and strengthening multilateralism for the 21st century through the reforms of the global financial architecture and, at long last, the UN Security Council. The absence of permanent African seats in the Security Council is indefensible. This is 2026, not 1946. Whatever decisions about Africa and the world are on the table, Africa must be at the table. Excellencies, these priorities inform the Pact for the Future, shaped by African leadership and the UN80 initiative to strengthen UN support to Africa and beyond. Looking ahead, we continue to have three major areas of focus. First, peace. In Sudan, the parties must commit to an immediate cessation of hostilities and resume talks towards a lasting ceasefire and comprehensive, inclusive, and Sudanese-owned political process. In South Sudan, the EU's high-level ad hoc committee provides an important chance to revive political dialogue and prevent renewed conflict. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, commitments must be honored, starting with an immediate ceasefire in the respect of the territorial integrity of the RDC. In the Central African Republic, political and security gains must be consolidated. And in Libya, all actors must advance a Libyan-led process supported by the United Nations Support Mission. Across West Africa and the Sahel, coordinated efforts are essential to end cycles of violence, terrorism, and displacement. And this Somalia, sustained and predictable funding for the EU support and stabilization mission is vital. I regret the Security Council's lack of consensus for finance through assessed contributions. If the mission of the EU in Somalia did not warrant global support, what would? More broadly, We are reviewing peace operations to ensure mandates are realistic, sequenced and well-resourced, and supported by clear transition strategies. Excellences, deuxièmement, l'action économique. De financement vertigineux des objectifs de développement durable de 4 000 milliards de dollars par an. Dans le même temps, l'Afrique perd chaque année davantage en remboursement de la dette et en flux financiers illicites qu'elle ne reçoit d'aide. Parallèlement, les pays africains paient des taux d'emprunt jusqu'à 8 fois supérieurs à ceux des économies avancées. Nous devons tripler la capacité de prêt des banques multilatérales de développement, mobiliser davantage de financement privé, réduire les coûts et les risques d'emprunt et soutenir les pays en situation d'endettement, de surendettement, et réformer l'architecture financière internationale afin de garantir aux pays en développement, et notamment aux pays africains, une voix et une participation pleine et entière dans les institutions financières et les prises de décision. La communauté internationale doit aussi assumer pleinement ses responsabilités dans la lutte contre le blanchissement de l'argent, l'évasion fiscale et les flux financiers illicites. Excellencies, third, climate action. Your team underlines the urgency of resilient water and sanitation systems in a warming planet. The science is unequivocal. The planet will overshoot the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. Our common task is to make that overshoot as small, short, and safe as possible. The G20 accounts for close to 80% of global emissions, and they must deliver major reductions this decade. Meanwhile, Africa, with 60% of the world's best solar potential, can become a clean energy powerhouse. Yet Africa receives only 2% of global clean energy investment. After contributing almost nothing to the crisis, Africa faces faster than average warming. Adaptation must be a priority, and that requires developed countries tripling adaptation finance and mobilizing the $1.3 trillion a year for developing countries by 2035, as agreed in Baku. Scaling up the Loss and Damage Fund and accelerating a just, orderly and equitable transition from fossil fuels to renewables. Expanding early warning systems and ensuring African countries benefit first and fully from their critical minerals through fair, sustainable value chains and manufacturing, in line with the recommendations of the UN panel on critical energy transition minerals. No more exploitation, no more plundering. The people of Africa must benefit from the resources of Africa. Excellencies, your leadership and solidarity have shaped my mission as Secretary General every step of the way. Let's keep going, strengthening our partnership for peace, sustainable development, and human rights for Africa and our world. And allow me a final observation. Some have described my presence here as a farewell. It's not true. I can guarantee that until the last moment of my mandate, Africa will be the priority number one of the UN in all its activities. And that the partnership between the African Union and the UN will be our deepest strategic partnership. And after the 31st of December, I can guarantee that wherever I will be, whatever I will be doing, in the center of my concerns and of my active solidarity, there will be Africa always. Africa sempre.